Enter the savannah. What you see right now is some stunning drone footage I filmed during my most recent trip to the native habitat of wild Nile and Savannah monitors. There's more of it in later parts of the video, so stick around and watch to see the rest. During this trip, we found a lot of other animals, and not just monitors, mostly giant African land snails and some snakes. We found at least 3 different types of snails, maybe even 4 or 5, because some had thicker and darker stripes than the others. But I'm not sure if it's just an individual variation or if it is a separate species or morph. One with a pale yellow unpatterned shell and light-colored body. Some had darker body and might be another species or color variant. One with pink shell and red stripes, and a line along the top of the body all the way to the head. Another with yellow shell and dark brown/black stripes. Some had extra thick and dark stripes and might be another species or morph. We found a black-necked spitting cobra, Naja nigricollis, under some bushes.
Do I come out?
Yeah. We also found a puff adder,
Kau je kelang ayah lah, je kelang. Yuk masih nak lem yana. Dia kontrol apa yang tinggi lah.
Dia yang come on. Problem.
Abua.
We briefly saw another type of snake in a tree and found at least 2 sheds in 2 different trees. We think the one we saw and the sheds we found in the trees were Psamophis elegans, whose common name in English is elegant sand racer. When people hear savanna monitor, they often think they live in the sandy Sahara Desert or in the yellow dead grass of lion documentaries. As you can see, they actually live in areas that are quite green and lush and humid, at least during the rain season and where I was. How did I end up in the land of savanna monitors? I have some as pets, and I think it is every pet owner's responsibility to try to learn what they are dealing with. I do this by observing the behavior of the ones I keep at home, and also by visiting the places they can be found in the wild. Hopefully, my videos will also help others get a better understanding of these amazing creatures. In this one, you will see a lot of drone footage of the landscape from above, as well as some other animals that share the same ecosystem as the savanna monitors. In my previous video called Savanna Monitors in the Wild, link is in the description, I talked a bit about their diet and their special relationship with a specific species of cricket. Some of my other videos show my Savannah monitors mating, laying eggs, and hatching in captivity. I plan to release another helpful video about how to interpret the body language of monitors, since I so often see people misinterpreting them. If you would like to see more drone footage of their habitat, I will most likely make a dedicated drone video soon, so you might want to subscribe so you don't miss it. As for how I physically ended up in West Africa, well, I flew. Then I went by car, bus, and motorbike. But first, I took the train. We saw a few different frogs and heard constant loud frog song everywhere we went, all the time, constantly. With every step we took, grasshoppers would fly. Some species even had rattling wings, so you could hear them. I remember sitting under this mango tree, taking a break. Once in a while I would hear this rattling sound and I was wondering what it was. And so when I heard it, I looked in the direction it was coming from. And the next time I heard it, it was this grasshopper that was flying. The grasshopper's wings made a rattling sound as they flew. We also found at least one small green praying mantis. Some of the grasshoppers we found were also green, but most of them were brown. We found this emperor scorpion right next to where we found the spitting cobra.
Scorpion lady, speak, speak.
Här har vi en skorpion. Pandinus imperator. We came across a hedgehog or tenrec. I don't know which one. I'm not a tenrec or hedgehog expert, but we found one either way. We found it in the grass in one of the crop fields, and it had some ticks which we took photos of, thinking it might carry the same ticks as Savannah monitors since they are of similar size and live in the same habitat and also in the same microhabitat because they walk in the same kind of grass, same microhabitat. This drone footage was filmed close to where we found the hedgehog. And now for the Savannah monitors. We caught 2 gravid females. They were both very heavy for their length, and their bellies were bulging. Both were infested with ticks. The Savannah monitors I keep at home are so used to humans, they let me do whatever I want with them. These wild ones are not used to humans at all, and are very scared and try to defend themselves when picked up. Since I'm not used to handling wild ones, and I prefer not getting bit and catching an infection in the humid hot tropics of rural West Africa, I let the others decide on handling technique. Here you can see the 3rd eyelid. Look at that red eye, but also look at that tick. As is commonly done by scared monitor lizards, this one shat itself when we caught it. This is where we found the first Savannah monitor. Would you have spotted it? We took note of the length, the weight, and the number we marked it with. This one's tail tip looked a bit odd. We found at least 4 different species of ticks attached to the 2 Savannah monitors we caught. We also found at least 1 species on the hedgehog, and we found a questing tick next to a shed with unknown host types. Some of the species were reminiscent of the Amblyomma genus, but I couldn't find any matching species when I compared with the tick identification guide for ticks found on cattle. It is possible the ticks we found are reptile-specific ticks. The different species and/or sexes of the ticks seem to prefer different areas of the lizards, with the ones looking similar to bont ticks being found mostly on the head, inside the nostrils and ears. Must be quite uncomfortable for the lizard. The puff adder also had some ticks. Today, a small gravid female. She's carrying eggs.
Beautiful. This is where it was found.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a buck. And then I release it. Wow. Okay.
Here is the second female we caught.
Female buck.
Very female, gravid.
That's female buck.
Lena, you're not here. Buck found.
sack in here. The fruits in. No sack. No sack, no.
Video.
Yeah, it's very fat, very gravid female in October 2021.
Yes.
Very nice pattern. It has semi-banded and semi-mesh. Very yellow in color.
Yeah. They're beautiful buck.
Yeah. It has very short claws on the hind leg.
Yes, that's true.
Very short. It seems to be in good shape. Very, very gravid, super fat. Here you can see the hind foot staining of the second female. Here you can see the number we marked the second female with. If you look closely, you can see that the second cut from the right has removed 2 pairs of scales instead of just 1 pair. This is because it was a trio of scales instead of a pair. You can see that the scales on the tail are arranged in vertical columns. Sometimes a scale column splits into 2 columns or merges 2 columns into 1. This is what was going on the top of this female's tail. When we initially made the second cut, there were 4 columns of intact scales between the second and the third cut on her left side, but 5 on the right side. This made our initial marking ambiguous, since it could be read as both 344 and 354. To fix this, we removed an additional scale on the right side, so that both sides read 344. We followed what we thought was a monitor lizard track, but we didn't find it. Close to where we found the second gravid female Savannah monitor, we found a dead juvenile Nile monitor. We didn't find any wounds, and we don't know why it died, just that it was most definitely dead. It had really nice yellow coloration. Since it was found so close to where we found the Savannah monitor, it means they at least partially share the same habitat. we were walking around searching for monitor lizards, one of us spotted something odd hanging low in a tree. It was a resting bat. It was all alone and hanging about 1.5 meters above ground. Bats usually live in groups, so it was odd to find one all alone. I tried asking for help identifying it online, but I didn't get any responses, so I have no idea which species it might be, except that it looks like a fruit bat of some kind. It seemed to have something on its neck, possibly eczema. Maybe it was both alone and sick. I'm not a bat whisperer, but it didn't seem to get bothered by us getting close to it as we were taking photos. There are tortoises and turtles in the area too. A team member had found a tortoise a few weeks back, possibly a Bell's Hingeback tortoise. It was the first time he'd ever seen one like that, and that's why he wanted some help identifying it. On our trip, they also found another turtle or tortoise, but weren't able to take a picture. The team found 2 to 3 skinks in a tree.
One person closing. One person closing.
Time for a weather report. When I was there, it rained a lot.
Has that some field work?
I had brought a 6.5R solar meter for measuring UV index, and because of the rain, we weren't able to take as many UV index readings as we wished to. Note that the UVI reached as high as 11 during the midday in the sun, but was just 1.0 in the shade just a few meters away at the same time. We also mixed up our bags on at least one occasion, so the person meant to take these multiple interval readings from the same spot over a few hours' time didn't have the reader on them at that time. Speaking of bags, because of my light skin tone and lack of sun exposure for the prior few months, I had brought sunscreen with me for protection against the UV rays. Sadly, I forgot to take it out of my suitcase on the first field day, and as such, my sunscreen was left at the hostel while my face was fully exposed to the sun. I managed to cover my arms with my jacket, but had nothing to protect my face, since I had also forgotten to bring my hat. When I got back to the hostel that night, my face was burnt red, just like I had expected. I thought, okay, I got burnt and I will be red and sensitive for a while, and in a few days my skin will start to peel off. Nothing to worry about, just plain old sunburn, like the ones I had had in Sweden in the summer. I was wrong. As I was sleeping, I woke up several times during the night because I felt so-called water running down my forehead and the outside of my nose. It was weird. When I looked myself in the mirror the next morning, I realized it wasn't water or sweat. It was yellow pus. It was pouring out of multiple holes in my forehead, eyebrows, and nose. Turns out I had gotten a second-degree burn from the sun, but instead of getting blisters, I just had the pus flowing freely. I was torn between wanting to stay inside for the rest of the trip and going back to the field. To get burned this badly on the first day, and to then have to sit inside and do nothing for the rest of the trip. I decided that if possible, I'd rather continue to go to the field than to sit indoors and be bored and feel like I wasted the entire trip. The rest of the team were rather worried about me. To protect my skin from further damage, a friend advised me to use the local aloe vera that grew wild here and there, and I had a team member buy me a hijab. I pulled the hijab up under my glasses so that only my eyes were visible, and put a cap or visor or whatever you call it, a hat with a shield on top. When we were out in the field, we also took care to find me shade during the midday when the sun was at its highest, so that both my skin and my legs could rest. The hijab completely covered my peripheral vision, and I could only see straight ahead, and it would trap my breath and make me quite warm. So during the midday rests, I often removed it completely or partially for some time, to let both the skin and myself breathe, and to properly see the landscape I was in. It also made eating and drinking easier if I didn't have fabric to cover my mouth. While he was alive, Daniel Bennett put a climate data logger in a place. He asked me to retrieve it and download the data when I was going to visit the area in mid-2020, but sadly he passed away a few months before I could go. Then the pandemic hit, and so the climate logger logged an extra year, giving almost 2 years' worth of data. This is the result. The two overlapping outer circles show the relative humidity, and the inner two circles are the temperatures. Initially, it might be hard to detect when the dry and when the rainy season is by just looking at the diagram, since the humidity seems to jump a lot from day to day. But if you draw a line along the lowest points of the humidity measured, it becomes a lot easier to see that some months are much drier than others. The reason why the humidity seems to jump so much is likely because of the sun, evaporation, and dewing. That is why it is more useful to look at the lowest humidity levels, because that shows us there are periods where the humidity always stays above a certain level, and other times when, even if it rains, the humidity will quickly disappear. When looking at the temperature, it is clear that it stays almost the same year-round. It is slightly cooler during June to December, and slightly hotter during January to May, but the difference is only about 5 degrees. The area we were looking in was mostly crop fields and cattle grazing grounds. It is grassy with trees here and there, and is home to various plants. This thorny tree is called achu. Adult savanna monitors climb these trees during diapause. Here is a cassava, a crop commonly grown in West Africa. This is okra, another common crop. One of the most common ones is red pepper, which is used in pretty much all food. Even when I asked to have less pepper in my food, my lips were still burning during every evening meal. Thankfully, I was spared pepper completely in my breakfast dish, which was the delicious beans with gari, boiled chicken eggs, and fried plantain, a dish also known as gobe. I was very surprised to find coleus, a very popular houseplant in Sweden, growing freely in the fields. I was equally surprised to find mint growing by the roadside, a type of plant we are able to grow outdoors without any issues in Sweden. We also saw what in Swedish is called svärmorstunga, a dracaena of some kind, formerly Sansevieria. You too saw it earlier, in the part where we caught the savanna monitors. To my excitement, and, since the first day in the field, to my help as well, there were also clusters of aloe vera spread out here and there. If you're going to walk in the bush, make sure to wear proper long-length trousers. Multiple plant species have seeds that will get attached to regular fabric, and some, like the ones pictured here, will go through the fabric and then penetrate your skin. It's quite uncomfortable, and it's especially painful if you manage to get them on the inside of your shoe. Speaking of shoes, you should also choose your pair of shoes with respect to the fact that you might accidentally step on a camouflaged puff adder if you're not careful. Multiple bird nests and eggs were found. Here is an eagle nest where the eagles have made use of local trash. Just like last time, we dug up some burrowing crickets. Notice the green leaves they store in their burrows.
Okay. Wait. Yeah, you can put it on.
That's good enough.
On the surface, we could find a smaller black cricket.
And the video.
Just like the last time I went to West Africa, we found a bunch of other critters this time too. enjoy some pictures and clips of the landscape we were in. The landscape is filled with various holes, and it takes a trained eye to know which ones are worth digging up if you're looking for savanna monitors. Close to where we were, new living houses are being developed, and new roads for nearby industry are being laid. We don't know yet what this will mean for the local savanna monitor population, but I remember Daniel Bennett and the other team members saying back in 2019 that for the past few years we have caught fewer and fewer monitors on our trips. They said that 10 or 20 years ago, in about the same month in the same area, they had previously gotten 20 to 30 baby savanna monitors per day instead of the 2 to 3 per day we caught in 2019. Granted, I was only in the field for 3 or 4 days back in 2019, and we were only a few people searching. But the team said the decreasing amount of catches was part of a pattern that had been going on for several years. We don't know why this is, as it could be any number of things. I personally suspect it might have been influenced by habitat destruction in one way or another, or too effective pet trade collecting. By too effective, I mean when entire clutches are dug up as eggs from wild nests, or when gravid females are captured and forced to lay in buckets and then thrown out to subsequently die afterwards.